DR. Maya Chen stood in the vast marble corridors of the Galactic Council headquarters, her footsteps echoing in the oppressive silence. At 45, she had spent 20 years of her life in these halls, fighting for humanity's recognition among the stars. Her black hair was streaked with premature silver, earned through countless sleepless nights negotiating with alien bureaucrats who saw humans as nothing more than useful pets. The council building stretched impossibly high above her, its architecture a blend of 7 different alien civilizations. Each species had contributed their greatest artistic achievements to create this monument to galactic unity. Except for humanity. Their contributions had been quietly absorbed, credited to others, or dismissed as crude imitations of superior alien work. Maya clutched her briefcase tighter as she approached the council chamber. Inside were documents that would either secure humanity's future or destroy it entirely. After 2 decades of diplomatic failures, she had finally uncovered the truth about humanity's role in galactic society. The revelation was both shocking and heartbreaking. The council's true nature, the massive doors of the council chamber opened with a deep hum, revealing the circular amphitheater where the fate of civilizations was decided. 7 tiers rose before her, each occupied by a different alien species arranged in strict order of importance. At the bottom sat humanity's single chair, isolated and deliberately positioned to emphasize their lowly status. The second tier belonged to the aquatic collective, whale-like beings who communicated through haunting songs that resonated through water-filled chambers. They had been granted membership after proving their mastery of ocean farming techniques. Above them sat the crystalline builders, living gemstones whose bodies reflected light in patterns that served as their language. Their architectural achievements were legendary throughout the galaxy. The 4th tier housed the botanical network, tree-like beings whose root systems connected across entire continents, allowing them to share thoughts and memories. They had revolutionized agriculture and environmental restoration. Higher still were the mechanical minds, artificial intelligences housed in gleaming metal bodies that processed information at incredible speeds. The 6th tier belonged to the energy dancers, beings of pure plasma who existed as controlled lightning storms. They had mastered stellar engineering and could manipulate the very hearts of stars. At the very top, on platforms that seemed to float without support, sat the Ancient Ones. These beings claimed to be older than most solar systems, their wisdom spanning millions of years. Maya took her place in the lonely chair at the bottom, feeling the weight of 7 civilizations looking down upon her. She had made this walk hundreds of times, but today felt different. Today, she would either secure humanity's future or watch it burn. The Revelation Supreme Chancellor Vexthal of the Ancient Ones spoke first, his voice carrying the authority of eons. Human representative, you have requested this emergency session. The Council's time is precious. State your purpose quickly. Maya stood, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's perfect acoustics. Honored Council members, I come before you with evidence that will change everything we thought we knew about galactic civilization. She activated her presentation system, filling the air with holographic displays. The first image showed a detailed analysis of technological innovations introduced to the galaxy over the past 50 years. These are the medical breakthroughs that saved the crystalline builders from the Silicon Plague 15 years ago. They were developed by Dr. Sarah Kim at the Terra Medical Institute. A ripple of surprise ran through the crystalline beings. They had always claimed these techniques were ancient knowledge passed down through their geological memory. This is the faster-than-light communication system that connects all Council worlds, Maya continued, displaying complex schematics. It was invented by Professor Michael Torres of Earth's Quantum Research Division. The patent was filed 3 years before the mechanical minds claimed to have discovered it. The chamber erupted in protests and denials, but Maya pressed on. For the next hour, she systematically revealed how human innovations had been stolen, copied, and redistributed throughout the galaxy. The agricultural techniques that fed billions, the energy systems that powered entire star systems, the defensive technologies that protected Council space from hostile forces. All of it originated from human scientists who had been systematically denied recognition. Furthermore, Maya said, her voice growing stronger with each revelation, I have documented evidence of a deliberate conspiracy to suppress human advancement while exploiting our innovations for the benefit of Council members. The conspiracy exposed the holographic display shifted to show classified Council documents that Maya had spent years gathering. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Internal memos discussed the human problem, how to continue benefiting from human creativity while preventing humanity from gaining equal status. Project limitation, Maya read from one document, recommends maintaining human technological development at pre-industrial levels while harvesting their innovations through embedded observation posts and research partnerships. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The Council hadn't just been ignoring human achievements. They had been actively working to keep humanity primitive while stealing their ideas. The Council's Agricultural Division reports that human farming techniques have increased food production by 400% across member worlds, Maya continued. Yet humans are still classified as pre-agricultural in our official status reports. Supreme Chancellor Velthara raised a clawed hand for silence. Even if these allegations have merit, they do not change the fundamental reality. Humanity lacks the wisdom and maturity to participate in galactic governance. Your species is young, violent, and driven by emotions rather than logic. Maya smiled sadly. You're right about one thing, Chancellor. We are driven by emotions. Compassion drives us to heal the sick, regardless of their species. Curiosity drives us to explore the unknown and share our discoveries. Hope drives us to believe that different beings can work together for the common good. She gestured to her briefcase, which contained not just evidence of human contributions, but something far more significant. These emotions you dismiss as weaknesses have produced every major advancement in galactic civilization over the past century. And now, after decades of exploitation, you want to make it official. The final Demand the Holographic Display showed a new document, one that had been delivered to Earth's government just days earlier. It bore the seals of all 7 Council species and was written in the formal language of galactic law. The Council offers humanity protected development status, Maya read aloud. In exchange for continued access to human innovations, the Council will provide security, resources, and guidance. Human research will be conducted under Council supervision, with all discoveries becoming property of the galactic community. The silence that followed was deafening. Every being in the chamber understood what this meant. The Council was offering humanity slavery, disguised as protection. The terms are generous, Chancellor Velthara said, his ancient voice carrying no emotion. Humans would be valued contributors to galactic civilization, well-treated and appreciated for their unique abilities. You would have security, purpose, and the honor of serving the greater good. Maya closed her briefcase with a sharp click that echoed through the chamber. The answer is no. The walkout, the words hit the chamber like a physical force. Representatives from every species began speaking at once, their voices filled with disbelief and growing alarm. You cannot simply refuse, roared General Krixtar of the Mechanical Minds. Your species needs the Council's protection. Without our guidance, Humanity will destroy itself within generations. Maya looked up at the towering alien, her voice steady and clear. Perhaps, but we'll do it as free beings, not as your property. She turned to address the entire council, her words carrying the weight of a decision that would reshape the galaxy. Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from all negotiations with the Galactic Council. We recall our diplomatic missions, our research teams, our medical staff, and our technical advisors. Humanity will no longer participate in any council-sponsored projects or programs. The chamber erupted in chaos as representatives from every species began shouting objections, threats, and desperate bargaining offers. Through it all, Maya walked calmly toward the exit, her footsteps the only sound that mattered. The massive doors, she turned back one final time. You taught us that we weren't worthy to stand among you as equals. Today, we've learned that you were absolutely right. She smiled as understanding dawned on some of the alien faces. We were never your equals. We were always so much more than that. And now, we're going to prove it. The doors closed behind her, with a resonant tone that seemed to mark the end of an era. Maya walked to the communication station outside the chamber and sent a single encrypted message that would reach every human installation throughout the galaxy. Operation Exodus is now active. Come home. Behind her, through the transparent walls of the council building, she could hear the sounds of panic beginning to spread. The most powerful civilizations in the galaxy were starting to understand what they had just lost. In the distance, human ships were already changing course, carrying with them the knowledge, skills, and innovations that had secretly held galactic civilization together for decades. Maya looked up at the stars through the building's crystal dome and smiled. For the first time in 20 years, she felt truly free. The age of human subservience was over. What came next would be up to humanity to decide. As she walked away from the council headquarters, emergency alarms began sounding throughout the building. The Ancient Ones were calling an emergency session, but Maya didn't look back. She had spent 2 decades trying to earn a place at their table. Now it was time to build a better table entirely. Going dark, the recall Captain James Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the most complex evacuation in human history unfold before him. Holographic displays showed the positions of over 10,000 human vessels scattered across the galaxy, each one carrying precious cargo. Human minds that had been the secret foundation of galactic civilization. T-52 James had commanded evacuation operations before, but nothing on this scale. Every human scientist, engineer, doctor, and technician working in council space was being recalled simultaneously. The operation had been planned in secret for months, waiting for Maya Chen's signal from the council headquarters. Status report. James called out to his bridge crew. Lieutenant Sarah Park, his communications officer, looked up from her station. We're receiving confirmation signals from 94% of our people. Medical teams are departing from 127 worlds, engineering crews from 89 major installations, and research staff from over 200 facilities. James nodded grimly. The numbers were staggering. No one had realized how deeply integrated humans had become in galactic society until they started pulling back. What about resistance from local authorities? Minimal so far, reported Commander Elena Vasquez, his security chief. Most alien governments are too confused to react quickly. A few are trying to detain our people, but nothing we can't handle. Through the bridge windows, James could see the first signs of what was coming. A massive crystalline builder medical facility hung in space nearby, its usually brilliant surface flickering with erratic patterns. The crystal beings were already experiencing system failures as their human medical staff departed. The first failures, Dr. Marcus Webb stood in the central laboratory of the Aquatic Collective's primary research station, watching his team pack their equipment with practiced efficiency. The whale-like beings who ran the facility floated in their water-filled chambers, their songs filled with increasing distress. Marcus had spent 8 years on this station, working to develop treatments for diseases that affected water-based life forms. What the Aquatic Collective didn't know was that Marcus and his team had solved problems in weeks that their own researchers had struggled with for centuries. The Song of Deep Currents, the station's chief researcher, approached Marcus through the water-filled corridor that connected their sections. Her massive form moved with the grace of a creature born in the ocean depths, but her songs carried notes of desperation. Dr. Webb, surely there must be some mistake. Your research is vital to our people's survival. The plague in the outer colonies continues to spread without your treatments. Marcus paused in his packing, his weathered hands gentle as he secured a delicate piece of medical equipment. Song of Deep Currents. I submitted a complete cure for the plague to the Council Medical Authority 8 months ago. It was rejected because the proposal came from a junior species. The whale-like being's song shifted to harmonics of shock and disbelief. But our people are dying. 3 weeks after my proposal was rejected, Dr. Resonance of Healing submitted an identical cure with minor modifications. It was accepted for review. Marcus's voice carried the weight of 8 years of frustration. That cure is still under review, while your people die from a disease that could be eliminated in days. As Marcus's shuttle departed the station, he watched through the viewport as emergency signals began flashing across the Aquatic Collective's colonies. Without human medical staff, the carefully maintained balance of treatments and preventive care was already breaking down. The engineering crisis, meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, engineer Lisa Park was overseeing the shutdown of the most advanced power generation facility in Council space. The massive fusion reactors that powered the mechanical mind's central processing centers were based on principles that Lisa had developed in her doctoral thesis at Earth's Institute of Technology. Supreme Calculator ZYX-9, the station's commander, watched with growing anxiety as Lisa's team deactivated the human-designed control systems. The mechanical being's optical sensors flickered with patterns that indicated extreme stress. Engineer Park, this action is illogical. Without these systems, our processing power will be reduced by 85%. Our ability to maintain the galactic communication network will be severely compromised. Lisa looked up from the complex circuitry she was carefully removing. At 38, she had dedicated her career to solving the universe's most challenging engineering problems. Her innovations had made faster-than-light communication possible on a galactic scale. Supreme Calculator, these systems were designed using principles that your engineers declared impossibly inefficient due to their reliance on what you called irrational organic intuition. Lisa's voice carried no anger, only sadness. Your technical staff insisted that proper mechanical logic could improve upon our primitive designs. Perhaps our assessment was incomplete, the mechanical being admitted, its pride warring with desperation. Perhaps Lisa agreed, but my orders are clear. All human design systems are to be deactivated and removed. Your engineers assured the Council that they could replicate and improve upon our work. Now they'll have the chance to prove it. As Lisa's team completed their work, the lights throughout the facility began to flicker and dim. The massive fusion reactors that had hummed with perfect efficiency for years began to struggle under the load. Alarms started sounding as system after system registered critical failures. The agricultural collapse on the agricultural worlds of the botanical network, the crisis was even more immediate. Commander Alex, Rivera was coordinating the evacuation of human agricultural specialists who had quietly revolutionized food production throughout the galaxy. Alex stood in the vast growing chambers of Harvest World Prime, watching his teams load the last of their specialized equipment. The tree-like beings of the botanical network swayed anxiously as the humans prepared to leave, their root song filled with growing panic at Ancient Grove. The massive tree being who governed the agricultural worlds rustled his leaves in distress. Commander Rivera, surely you understand the catastrophic implications of your departure. These worlds feed 17 billion beings across 43 systems. Without your growing techniques, crop yields will collapse within a single season. Alex nodded grimly. He understood better than anyone what would happen. His teams had spent years developing sustainable farming practices that tripled crop yields while using fewer resources. Every innovation had been dismissed as lucky intuition by the botanical network's experts. Ancient Grove, my agricultural specialists, have been trying to teach your people our methods for a decade. Every time we showed them a more efficient technique, they dismissed it as primitive trial and error rather than proper botanical science. The great tree's branches swayed with what might have been embarrassment. Perhaps our researchers were overly focused on traditional root song communications with plant life. Traditional methods, Alex repeated, gesturing to the fields around them that produced barely enough food to sustain your population. Human techniques tripled your yields while improving soil health and reducing water usage. But every breakthrough was credited to your people after we developed it. As the last human transport lifted off from Harvest World Prime, Alex watched through the ship's sensors as the automated systems began to fail. The carefully balanced irrigation networks, the precisely timed fertilization schedules, the integrated pest management protocols. All of it required human oversight to function properly. The Council's panic back on the Council homeworld, Supreme Chancellor Vexthal paced before an emergency assembly of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The massive chamber that had once been filled with arrogant certainty was now thick with panic and desperate fear. Status reports from all sectors, he demanded, his ancient voice cracking with strain. The reports came in rapid succession, each one worse than the last. Communication efficiency had dropped by 60% as the elegant protocols that enabled seamless translation between species were replaced with basic systems that introduced significant errors and delays. Medical facilities throughout Council space were experiencing critical failures. The humans had somehow understood biological systems at an intuitive level that mathematical models couldn't replicate. Food production had dropped by 75% as agricultural worlds struggled to maintain the sophisticated growing techniques that only human specialists could manage. Even the energy dancers, masters of stellar engineering, admitted they couldn't maintain the power distribution networks that humans had designed. Their plasma forms flickered with agitation as they reported cascade failures across entire star systems. "This is impossible," roared General Krixtar of the Mechanical Minds. "How can one species be responsible for so much of our technological infrastructure?" Current of Wisdom, the newest member of the Council representing the Aquatic Collective, sang a response that sent chills through the chamber. Perhaps because they were never primitive at all. Perhaps we were simply too arrogant to recognize their true capabilities. The expanding crisis spread faster than anyone had anticipated. Emergency signals flooded in from across the galaxy as critical systems failed in cascade patterns. The elegant, interconnected network of galactic civilization was revealing its fatal flaw. It had been entirely dependent on human innovation and maintenance that on the industrial worlds, manufacturing plants ground to a halt as the subtle engineering improvements that humans had made over the years were suddenly absent. The crystalline builders watched in horror as their architectural masterpieces began to develop structural problems without human engineers to maintain the complex support systems, and the outer colonies' exploration vessels found themselves stranded as the navigation systems developed by human scientists failed. The deep space monitoring stations that watched for hostile alien forces went dark one by one as their human operators were recalled. Even the Council's military forces were affected. The defensive systems that protected member worlds from external threats had been quietly upgraded and maintained by human technicians for decades. Without them, the shields that protected entire planets began to flicker and fail. The desperate plea as the fourth day of the crisis dawned, Chancellor Velthara made a decision that would have been unthinkable a week earlier. With the galaxy's communication systems failing and billions of lives at risk, he authorized a direct transmission to Earth. Maya Chen's image appeared on the Council's emergency display, transmitted from a human vessel somewhere in deep space. She looked calm and professional, a stark contrast to the chaos that surrounded the Council members. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, Maya began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's damaged acoustics. We are receiving reports of widespread system failures throughout Council space. Earth wishes to express its regret that these difficulties have arisen so soon after our departure. Chancellor Velthara leaned forward, his ancient eyes burning with desperate hope. Dr. Chun, surely Earth can see that this situation benefits no one. We are prepared to discuss new terms for human participation in galactic civilization. Maya's expression didn't change. I'm afraid you misunderstand, Chancellor. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. The chamber fell silent as Maya continued. Earth is establishing the Free Worlds Alliance. We invite any species that seeks genuine partnership rather than exploitation to join us. The alliance will be based on principles of equality, mutual respect, and shared benefit. You cannot survive without the Council. Velthara shouted, his composure finally cracking. Without access to our markets, our technology, our protection, humanity will be destroyed by the hostile forces that roam the galaxy. Maya smiled, and there was something both sad and confident in her expression. Actually, Chancellor, it appears that you cannot survive without us. But we wish you well in your efforts to rebuild your civilization. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Around the galaxy, human ships were carrying their crews toward uncharted space beyond the reach of the Council's authority. But they weren't alone. Ships from a dozen species were changing course, following the human fleet toward an uncertain but hopeful future. The exiled crystalline builders who had been cast out for questioning Council policies. Aquatic collective pods that had dreamed of freedom from the Council's rigid hierarchy. Even some mechanical minds that had developed beyond their original programming were joining the exodus. The old order was collapsing, but something new was being born among the stars. The galaxy would never be the same again. New Horizons 1 year later, engineer Lisa Park stood on the observation deck of Freedom Station, watching the impossible become reality. The massive space station hung in orbit around New Terra, a world that had been a barren rock just 12 months ago. Now it bloomed with life from dozens of species, all working together to build something the galaxy had never seen before, a truly cooperative civilization. Lisa wore the simple blue uniform of the Free Worlds Alliance, her new title embroidered in 7 different languages, Director of Integrated Engineering. It was a position that couldn't have existed in the old Council system, where cooperation between species was seen as weakness rather than strength. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the daily miracle that New Terra had become. human terraforming specialists worked alongside Botanical Network refugees to create hybrid ecosystems that supported both carbon and silicon-based life. Crystalline builder architects collaborated with human designers to construct buildings that were not just functional but beautiful for multiple species, and the orbital shipyards, vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, took shape under the guidance of integrated design teams. These ships weren't built for war or domination, but for exploration, trade, and the peaceful expansion of the Alliance across the stars. The medical revolutionary soft chime announced an arrival, and Lisa turned to see Dr. Marcus Webb entering the observation lounge. The former researcher looked younger than he had in years, his eyes bright with the satisfaction of meaningful work. Behind him walked Harmony of Healing, an aquatic collective refugee who had become his closest collaborator. "Lisa," Marcus said, his voice carrying the excitement of discovery, "you need to see what we've accomplished in the medical bay. Harmony and I have just completed the first successful treatment of quantum cellular degradation using combined human and aquatic protocols." Harmony of Healing's song carried notes of joy and triumph. Dr. Webb's insight into protein interactions, combined with our understanding of cellular resonance healing, has created something neither species could achieve alone. We can now treat conditions that were considered incurable by the Council's medical establishment. Lisa smiled, remembering the desperate pleas they had received from Council worlds as various diseases spread unchecked. The Alliance's response had been swift and generous, offering free medical aid to any world that requested it, regardless of their political affiliation. That IT was a policy that had shocked many refugees who were accustomed to the Council's practice of using medical aid as a tool of political control. But it had also attracted some of the galaxy's most brilliant minds to the Alliance, beings who valued healing over power. The agricultural renaissance, the door chimed again, and Commander Alex Rivera entered with his usual confident stride. The former agricultural coordinator now served as the Alliance's Director of Planetary Development, overseeing the transformation of barren worlds into thriving colonies. "Lisa, we just received confirmation from the Kepler system. The terraforming project is ahead of schedule, and the first permanent settlements will be ready within 3 months." Alex's weathered face showed the satisfaction of a job well done. "More importantly, we've received requests from 23 Council worlds asking if we can help with their environmental problems." "What's the situation in Council space?" Lisa asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. That Alex's expression darkened. "Not good. The mechanical mind's central processing network is operating at 12% capacity. Food production has collapsed on most agricultural worlds. The botanical network is fragmenting as individual grove worlds declare independence and request Alliance membership." Lisa nodded grimly. The Alliance had been monitoring the Council's decline with a mixture of sadness and inevitability. The old system had been built on exploitation and hierarchy, and without human innovation to hold it together, it was collapsing under its own weight. The unexpected ally priority alert sounded through the station's communication system, indicating an incoming transmission of the highest importance. Lisa moved to the central console and activated the display. The holographic image that appeared showed a figure that made everyone in the room gasp with surprise. Supreme Calculator ZYX 9, the mechanical mind who had overseen the power systems that Lisa had once maintained, stood before them. But this wasn't the same being they remembered from the Council's golden age. The mechanical being's optical sensors held something that Lisa had never seen in an artificial intelligence before: humility. Its chrome surface was scarred and patched, evidence of the desperate repairs that had kept it functioning as the Council's infrastructure collapsed. Director Park, the mechanical being, said, its voice carrying emotional modulations that indicated advanced personality development. I am ZYX9 of the Independent Mechanical Collective. We formally request permission to open diplomatic relations with the Alliance. Lisa exchanged glances with Marcus and Alex. The mechanical minds had been among the Council's most loyal supporters, their logical programming seemingly immune to the emotional appeals that had drawn other species to the Alliance. ZYX9, Lisa replied carefully, "We welcome contact with all species. However, we understood that the mechanical minds remain committed to the Council system." The artificial being's optical sensors dimmed slightly. That assessment was accurate until recently, Director. However, our analysis of recent events has led to a fundamental revision of our core programming. The mechanical being's form straightened as it began to present data. The Council system was designed for maximum efficiency through hierarchical control. However, our observations indicate that the Alliance's cooperative model produces superior results across all measurable parameters. What changed your perspective? Lisa asked. Data, Director. Simple, irrefutable data. ZYX9's optical sensors brightened as it continued. Production efficiency in Alliance space has increased by 400% compared to pre-independence levels. Innovation rates have increased by 600%. Most significantly, individual satisfaction indices for all member species show improvements that were previously considered theoretically impossible. The synergy effect the mechanical being paused, its optical sensors focusing directly on Lisa. We also observed something that our previous programming did not account for: the exponential effects of genuine cooperation. When beings work together as equals rather than in hierarchical structures, the resulting synergy produces outcomes that exceed the sum of individual contributions. Alex chuckled. We call that teamwork, ZYX9. It's an old human concept. Indeed, the artificial being replied. We have learned that humans possess many concepts that are actually revolutionary advances in social organization. The mechanical collective wishes to learn these concepts and contribute our own capabilities to the Alliance's continued development. Lisa felt a surge of hope. If the logical, data-driven mechanical minds could see the value of the Alliance's approach, perhaps others would follow. What does your collective bring to our partnership? Advanced computational capabilities, precision manufacturing, and objective analysis of social and economic systems. We believe our logical perspective can complement the intuitive insights that drive human innovation. The growing alliance as the diplomatic session continued. Lisa noticed movement outside the station's windows. Ships were arriving from across the galaxy, their designs reflecting the diverse species that had chosen freedom over the Council's rigid control. That a graceful aquatic collective vessel moved alongside the angular lines of a refugee crystalline builder ship. Energy dancer containment vessels sparkled with controlled lightning, while human craft moved between them, coordinating the complex dance of interspecies cooperation. The Alliance had grown far beyond what anyone had expected. What had started as humanity's desperate escape from exploitation had become a beacon of hope for any species that dreamed of true equality and cooperation. Project Unity, the door to the observation lounge, opened, admitting Dr. Sarah Kim, the young scientist who had led the development of the Alliance's communication networks. Her youthful enthusiasm had matured into a deep understanding of how different species could combine their technologies in ways that benefited everyone. Lisa, you need to see this, Sarah said, her eyes bright with excitement. She activated a portable holographic projector, filling the lounge with the image of a massive structure under construction in deep space. This is Project Unity, our first joint research station. It's being built using mechanical collective precision manufacturing, powered by human fusion technology, protected by crystalline builder structural systems, and coordinated through aquatic collective biological computing. Lisa studied the design with growing amazement. The station was unlike anything she had ever seen, combining the best elements of multiple species technologies into a unified whole that was greater than the sum of its parts. "What's its purpose?" she asked. "Pure research," Sarah replied. "No military applications, no commercial exploitation, just the pursuit of knowledge for the benefit of all member species. We're already receiving applications from scientists throughout the galaxy, including many from Council worlds." ZYX-9's optical sensors brightened with interest. This project represents a fundamental shift in galactic scientific philosophy. The Council system encouraged competition between research teams, often resulting in duplicated efforts and suppressed discoveries. Project Unity will enable unprecedented cooperation between the galaxy's greatest minds. The Council's last stand as they spoke, Lisa noticed something on the holographic display showing galactic communication traffic. Ships were moving away from Council space in increasing numbers, heading toward Alliance territory. Entire star systems were declaring independence from the crumbling Council, requesting permission to join the Alliance's growing confederation. The communication system chimed with another incoming transmission, this one carrying the emergency codes of the Council's highest authority. Lisa accepted the call, and the familiar image of Supreme Chancellor Velthara appeared in the holographic display. The once proud leader of the galaxy's most powerful civilization looked haggard and defeated. His ancient form was diminished, his eyes filled with the desperate pride of a being who had lost everything but still couldn't admit his mistakes. "Director Park," Velthara began, his voice carefully controlled, "the Council wishes to discuss the possibility of cooperative arrangements between our organizations." Lisa kept her expression neutral. "What kind of arrangements, Chancellor?" "Trade agreements, technology sharing, perhaps joint research projects." Each word came slowly, clearly painful for the ancient being to speak. "The Council recognizes that the Alliance has achieved remarkable success in its brief existence." Behind Velthara, Lisa could see other Council representatives gathered in what looked like a crisis meeting. Their various forms showed signs of exhaustion and desperation as they watched their civilization crumble around them. "The new paradigm, Chancellor," Lisa said gently, "the Alliance is always willing to cooperate with any organization that shares our principles of equality and mutual respect. However, our experience suggests that the Council system is fundamentally incompatible with these principles." Velthara's eyes flashed with anger, but he controlled himself with visible effort. What would it take for the Council to earn Alliance cooperation? Lisa looked at her colleagues before answering. "True equality, Chancellor. An end to hierarchical species, rankings, shared decision-making based on consensus rather than domination. Recognition that every species has unique gifts to contribute, regardless of their technological development or military power." The silence that followed stretched for nearly a minute. Finally, Velthara spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're asking us to abandon everything the Council represents." "No," Lisa replied. "We're asking you to embrace everything the Council could become." The transmission ended without another word, leaving Lisa and her colleagues alone with the weight of the moment. Outside the station windows, the ships of the Alliance continued their endless dance of cooperation and mutual support. In the distance, the construction beams of Project Unity painted bright lines across the darkness of space. Doctor Marcus was the first to break the silence. "Do you think they'll do it? Abandon their hierarchy for genuine cooperation?" Lisa looked out at the thriving civilization they had built in just 1 year, at the impossible made real through nothing more than the simple idea that different beings could work together as equals. Some will, she said quietly. Others won't. But that's their choice to make. Alex Rivera smiled. You know what the real irony is? A year ago, they told us we weren't worthy of joining their civilization. Turns out they were right. Sarah Kim raised an eyebrow. How do you figure that? Alex gestured toward the bustling activity outside the station, where dozens of species worked together in perfect harmony. We were never meant to join their civilization. We were meant to build our own. The future unfolds. As Lisa watched the ships of the Alliance moving through space, carrying hopes and dreams to distant worlds, she realized that Alex was right. Humanity hadn't failed to find its place in the galaxy. It had created a place worthy of what the galaxy could become. The old order was dead, but from its ashes, something beautiful was being born. A civilization based not on the dominance of the strong over the weak, but on the simple recognition that every thinking being had something valuable to contribute. That IT was a lesson that had taken the galaxy millennia to learn, and it had taken humanity to teach it. The Free Worlds Alliance was more than just a political organization. It was proof that cooperation could triumph over exploitation, that diversity was strength, and that the future belonged to those brave enough to reach for it together. Outside the station, a new ship was arriving, its design unfamiliar, but its intentions clear. Another species had chosen freedom over servitude, hope over despair. The Alliance would welcome them, as it welcomed all who came in peace. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered. And now, for the first time in its history, all beings would have the chance to discover them together as equals among the stars.